All right, so the next one, who's been most put to the test so far?
Yeah, I would go with Jonathan Kovacevic. Honestly,
Yeah.
you're really stretching it. You know, the fact that he's playing, as much as he has at the NHL level so far. I mean, yes, it's only his second full season in the league, but he's been put in a situation that is new to him. He doesn't exactly have either the profile or the skills to be playing such an important role. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The last couple of games, you're mentioning how it's been difficult for Monahan in Boston, and then after that in Anaheim. Well, same could be said about Kovacevic.
Mhm.
And it's at first I thought that he'd be a third pairing, borderline seventh D. The fact that he can play on both sides, he's got a lot going for him. But he's been asked to do a lot, and I think that he's reached his limit. So on certain nights, it's really you have to put your finger on the pulse and see. Okay, tonight does he have it the way that we want it, or do we have to scale it back a little bit? So there's a read to be done with Kovacevic, because you can see in the current situation, with all that's being asked, that there's going to be a lot of inconsistency in his play.
Yeah, I agree. Um, and yeah, I think that's a great pick. And actually, I'm going to go back to my MVP kit pick because I think Sean Monahan is being asked to do a bit too much, and I
Mm.
think it's starting to show itself now. And I think it's tempting. It's so tempting as a coach when you see Sean Monahan, everything he does and everything that he brings to the team and all the roles that he can fill and how responsible he is. Listen, he did not have he had, I'm going to flat out say he had a bad game in Anaheim. However, when the Canadiens needed to protect that lead at the end of the game, he played the final 2 minutes of the game
Hmm.
and had another shift within the last 5 minutes. So played about three and a half of the final 5 minutes of that game. This is something like Martin St. Louis. He has become his security blanket, and he's. I wonder the extent to which they're going to kill his trade value because they're playing him too much.
Oh,
Like it's he's playing over 20 minutes a night or roughly 20 minutes a night, both special teams, although I think his work on the PK has been dialed back a little bit, but he's he's been Mr. Everything for this team. And they're going to have to dial it back. He's being asked to do too much and he's been great. But
yeah.
right now we're seeing some signs that of wear and tear, maybe not injury wise, even though missing practice yesterday in San Jose is maybe the first sign of concern with him. But there's being too much asked of him. I think his sweet spot would be 15 to 17 minutes, which is still a robust number in terms of ice time. Um, but I think we're starting to see from his performance and from the fact he had to sit out practice yesterday that maybe he's being leaned on a little too hard, and
Yeah.
that and for the well being of the franchise and the well being of the Canadians, they need to optimize that guy as much as they can for as long as they can to goose his trade value and get as much as they can for him prior to the deadline. And the way things are trending over the last little while, there's an adjustment that needs to be made, and maybe it's the fact that his minutes need to be dialed back. So that's what I
because
would go
he's
with.
because he's a top six talent, but he needs to be managed as a third line center.
Yeah, and it's
Ideally in terms of
fine.
15 to 17 minutes, because he'll do everything well, but at some point, if you squeeze the fruit too much, there won't be any juice. So
Exactly. And that's the risk that you run when, a guy like I think we're seeing it from Tanner Pearson too, to some extent, where he's not as effective as he was early in the season, but his role is not quite as significant as Monahan's is. But I think, it's these are two guys that the Canadians would love to trade before the deadline.
yeah.
Let's put them in a position to optimally perform so that there's sufficient trade entrance a long time from now. They got to go another 3 months minimum where these guys are being effective for some sort of auction situation to develop with them. And less so with Pearson, but definitely with Monahan, it's something that has to be monitored.
You
Let's
know,
see if
I don't know if it's done as closely with Adam Douglas as it was with Pierre Allard, but we're referring to the Canadian specialist of sports performance and and conditioning too. But Pierre Allard back in the day, he used to use all the data that they had with uh, the
catapults.
catapult wearables, and
Yeah,
basically with all the amount of data that he had
they don't wear them
accumulated,
anymore.
huh? No.
They don't wear them anymore.
So, but he used to collect that in order to manage how much to identify the ideal workload for each player, both in
Hmm.
practice and during games. And the result of it was that the Canadians would play. It might have been a byproduct of the fact that they didn't have like Austin Matthews or a superstar in their team, but their top six guys would play really less than almost any group of forwards in the league. And it would be a very interesting case study if Pierre Allard was still here to hand him Sean Monahan and say, okay, what would be the ideal ice time based on the data, based on
Right.
with the
Well,
information that you get from
I
him?
think Adam Douglas says those things, and I think Adam Douglas actually has a coach who listens to him, as opposed to Pierre Lalande, who didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like is I think there's a more progressive way of viewing things with the Canadians. I think that's probably the reason why Sean Monahan wasn't at practice yesterday. But Adam Douglas does listen. Whenever you're on the road, you see Adam Douglas in real time during practice, inputting data. Although I think his techniques have changed from last season. There was a lot more of that last season, so maybe we'll have to dig into that.